Hi, I'm Carl Azus. Thank you for taking 10 minutes for CNN Student News. For more than 80 years, Time magazine has named a Person of the Year. It started with aviator Charles Lindbergh for 1927. This year, it's not just one person, it's all of those who've helped fight the Ebola virus in West Africa, the worst Ebola outbreak in recorded history. Time's managing editor says when there wasn't much to stop Ebola's spread, with governments unprepared, some health officials dragging their feet, it was the first responders, the local doctors, the international aid organizations who stepped up to save lives and earned recognition as the People of the Year. The World Health Organization says almost 18,000 Ebola cases have been diagnosed since the outbreak started. Around 6,400 people have died from it. Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone have been hardest hit, but they're making progress. Slushed. One really accurate word being used to describe the U.S. Northeast. Moisture from the Atlantic Ocean has clashed with cold air. The results? Chilly, miserable rain in some places, like you're seeing here from Long Island. The New York metro area has gotten nearly 3 inches, a record amount of rain this week. And in other spots, a winter wonderland for the moment. The National Weather Service says the 6 to 10 inches of snow in parts of Maine will be glazed by freezing rain throughout the rest of the week, and the coast will be battered by gusting wind. It's like a circular water sprinkler is spiraling up through New England, and for all of it, a nor'easter's to blame.
A nor'easter is a storm that typically happens in the Northeast. That's not why it's called a nor'easter, though. The name comes from the wind, or the prevailing wind that you typically get from that sort of storm, which is out of the Northeast. And the bigger, stronger the storm, the stronger the nor'east wind is. Nor'easters are typically a weak storm that make their way across the U.S. and will get a little bit of energy from the jet stream, and then when they hit the coast, that difference in temperature between the land and the ocean, that gives them a little bit more in the way of instability and more fuel for the fire. Common characteristics of a nor'easter are wind, rain, sometimes snow, definitely waves battering the coastline, and because of that you can get some beach erosion, you can get some coastal flooding. A storm surge is possible as well, so a lot of damage can be done not only along the shoreline but also inland in the form of winds and heavy snow. Sometimes nor'easters can dump several feet of snow, especially at the higher terrain. Nor'easters typically happen anywhere really from September all the way to May. The more intense ones happen really in the fall and winter time, but springtime you can get some nor'easters that have some devastating winds. Nor'easters and hurricanes are completely different because they derive their energy from 2 completely different sources. Your hurricanes get your energy from the warm waters of the Atlantic Ocean, and that latent heat release is what drives the engine. Once a hurricane goes on land, it loses its energy. A nor'easter gets its energy from the differences between hot and cold. Often a blizzard will come from a strong nor'easter, so in some cases they can be one and the same. Blinding snow and winds blowing 35, 40 miles an hour, and obviously devastating cold. And that's why the strongest nor'easters typically happen in fall and winter when you have that dynamic contrast in temperatures.
Who wrote the Declaration of Independence? That's a question on the U.S. citizenship test. We'll give you some options: James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, or Ben Franklin. The answer later became our 3rd president. It's Thomas Jefferson. In North Dakota, state lawmakers are considering making the citizenship test a requirement to get a high school diploma. Several other states are debating something like this. Supporters say it'd be a step toward improving young Americans' civics knowledge. Opponents say another test won't get them more engaged in U.S. history. If the bill passes, students would have to get 60 out of 100 questions right, including the number of justices on the U.S. Supreme Court. Is it 6, 8, 9, or 12? The answer, including the Chief Justice, is 9. If the president and vice president can no longer serve, who's next in line for the presidency? The Speaker of the House, the Secretary of State, or the Defense Secretary? The answer is the Speaker of the House. In the actual U.S. citizenship test, the answers are not multiple choice. Batman, Romeo, and Santa Claus. They're not just popular characters, they're actual places. There's a city named Batman in Turkey, a town named Romeo in Colorado, and a Santa Claus in Arizona, Georgia, and Indiana. Now that's random and confusing to reindeer. All right, at North Atlanta High School yesterday, I was asked if I get nervous before anchoring CNN Student News. I was in my very first show, but not anymore, partly because I follow several tips for giving a successful speech. Be prepared, knowing your material, be conversational, and practice, practice, practice. I've done it. Here are some methods your speech teachers might cover.
Your heart races, sweat drips, your neck and back literally stiffen, your mouth goes dry. Mark Twain once said, there are two types of speakers, those who get nervous and those who are liars. But it doesn't have to be difficult. There are some very simple ways to become great at speaking your mind.
It blows my mind how many people are scared of public speaking, otherwise known as glossophobia, but it's definitely a thing. And it's not just that panicky feeling, but that feeling of nausea and physical distress when that fight or flight response kicks in. So what can you do to get over it? I caught up with the speechwriting gurus from the Oratory Laboratory to find out. Why do you think people are so afraid of public speaking?
People are afraid of the audience, right? That's the big thing. They walk into a room and they're like, oh God, everyone's looking at me, right? So you're the hero of your story, and when you're giving a speech, you've got to remember that you're up there because people asked you to tell the story, and it's your version only, it's no one else's speech. If you remember that, you're going to spend a lot less time being scared of the audience.
So when people are preparing for a speech, what are the best ways to kind of prepare in order to be as comfortable as possible?
The way you prepare for a speech is the same way you should prepare for telling any great story. First of all, think of something that makes you excited, and then frame the speech around that, and really just think about how great it is, and then let that carry you through the process.
With all of those tips in mind, we decided to set up on the sidewalk and face one of the toughest crowds around, New Yorkers. First, Nathan gave me a few pointers.
You basically just take what they're passionate about, right? Frame it with a little bit of a story, and then celebrate whatever it is they want to celebrate.
We gathered a crowd and I asked a few questions.
Let's get a little crowd together.
Oh, they're cool.
How about you folks?
What's your name?
Jessica.
Jessica. What are you doing hanging out in Bryant Park? So what are you writing about? So what's the secret sauce?
And then, using just a few bits of information I got, I took a shot at toasting a total stranger.
And I just wanted to lift up Jessica, such an intellectual genius that has been able to come out here today, and she didn't have to spend time in the office, but she could spend time working on what she cares about and what she loves the most. Here's to never being scared, to doing what you always wanted to do. Here's to Jessica. If you work at it and you have the confidence and you believe in yourself, you can be a champion as well.
Qingdao is a city on China's east coast, and it's where Qingdao Amarasia International School is watching CNN Student News. Thank you for tuning in from Shandong Province. On the U.S. East Coast, we found Cape Elizabeth, Maine. It's where the Capers are online at Cape Elizabeth Middle School, and at Central Junior High in the Sooner State of Oklahoma. Hello to the Cubs in the city of Moore. The plural of mongoose is mongooses. Why am I telling you this? Well, it's not just one mongoose that's diving into this ball pit. It's a business of mongooses. And they didn't just randomly take over. Workers at the Houston Zoo filled up a kiddie pool with plastic balls to let the mongooses play, dig, and generally have a ball. Get it? Digging's part of their normal behavior. Playing just adds to the fun. Watching lets us see how cute they are. You can tell they really dig it. They can ferret out some fun. When let loose, the goose's induced boost loosed up one goosed up run and helped me goose up some puns. I'm Carl, a goose for CNN Student News.